Why is it that so many people who seemed unstoppable at 75 begin to fade so quickly just a few years later? You see them vibrant, laughing, walking with confidence, and then suddenly after 80, something shifts. Their spark dims, their energy wanes, and they begin to withdraw. Most assume it's just genetics or bad luck, but what if that explanation is dangerously incomplete? What if the real reasons are quieter, hidden in plain sight, woven into the ordinary rhythms of daily life that slowly disappear without notice? These are not about smoking, diet, or exercise alone. They are the subtle threads, interactions, routines, emotions that hold our lives together. When they unravel, decline accelerates. The shocking truth is that many older adults do not fade because their bodies give up, but because the small rituals that once anchored their lives slip away. And here's the hopeful part. Once you know what these hidden causes are, you can fight back. You can choose differently. Stay with me, because what you'll discover may change the way you think about aging forever. And before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so this channel can keep bringing you powerful insights and motivation. Question for you. Which do you believe matters more after 80? A. Genetics decide everything. B. Small daily habits shape your future. Comment A or B below. I'd love to see your thoughts. One of the first and most overlooked reasons many people begin to fade after 80 is not a lack of medical care, not even the presence of disease, but something far more subtle, the quiet disappearance of what scientists call microsocial engagement. These are the everyday interactions that once colored life without fanfare. Greeting the postman with a smile, exchanging a few words with a cashier, asking a neighbor about their garden, or nodding to a passerby on the street. To younger people, these moments may appear meaningless, but to the aging brain and body, they are lifelines. Each small exchange is like a pulse of electricity, keeping the social wiring of the brain alive. Each nod or smile reassures the nervous system that it is still part of the world, that it still belongs. Without them, the circuits that keep us mentally sharp and emotionally balanced begin to fray. After 80, many older adults unknowingly begin to cut themselves off from these lifelines. It does not always happen intentionally. Errands that once took them out into the community are now replaced with online deliveries. Hearing difficulties makes small talk exhausting, so they withdraw from casual conversations. A sore knee, cold weather, or the fear of falling may keep them inside. At first, these choices look practical. Family members even encourage them, saying it is safer, easier, more convenient. But beneath that convenience lies a hidden cost. Every time one of those casual connections disappears, a small piece of vitality is lost. Over time, the cumulative absence of those tiny interactions creates a kind of invisible loneliness, one that does not feel dramatic but quietly eats away at resilience. The brain responds to this absence as if it were a stressor. Hormones shift, inflammation rises, and immune defenses weaken. The networks responsible for attention, memory, and emotional regulation begin to shrink from disuse. And here is the cruel irony. The person believes they are simplifying life, reducing stress, avoiding unnecessary effort. Yet in doing so, they are removing the very nourishment their mind and body depend on to stay alive and alert. They are not just avoiding effort, they are withdrawing from the living, breathing rhythm of the everyday world, and the body interprets that withdrawal as a signal to fade. But the story does not end there. There are those who remain sharp and energetic into their 80s and 90s, and often their secret is not extraordinary wealth or superior genes, but the presence of these micro-connections. I once observed an older man who walked each morning to the same small cafe. He did not engage in deep conversations. He simply ordered coffee, greeted the staff, and nodded to familiar faces along the way. That 10-minute routine was not trivial. It was the glue that held his day together. It gave him accountability, recognition, and continuity. It told his nervous system, "You are still here, you still matter, you are still seen." Without those signals, life begins to blur. With them, it retains shape and texture. The practical lesson is clear. Microsocial engagement is not a luxury. It is as essential to aging well as nutrition or exercise. Even the smallest effort to reintroduce these daily interactions can reignite vitality. A conversation with a neighbor, a thank you to the delivery driver, A brief word at the pharmacy counter. These are not empty gestures. They are medicine. They tell the body and mind, again and again, that life is still in motion, that connection is still possible, that belonging is still real. If you have noticed yourself speaking less during the day, if your errands no longer involve human contact, if you feel more invisible than before, it is time to pay attention. This is not just loneliness. It is a warning sign, and it is reversible. Step outside, greet someone, create those threads of connection again. They may seem small, but in reality, they are the invisible fabric that keeps you alive, not only in years but in spirit. After 80, decline often begins not with disease, but with choices made in the name of safety. A stumble on the stairs, a near fall in the rain, and suddenly daily movement feels dangerous. Family members encourage restraint, praising caution as wisdom. Yet beneath this surface lies a paradox. By moving less, you don't preserve strength, you lose it. The body is not designed to stay alive through stillness. Muscles atrophy quickly when unused. Balance weakens without practice. Coordination fades without repetition. What feels like safety becomes slow surrender, and what was once feared becomes more likely precisely because movement has stopped. It often begins quietly. A man stops his evening walks after a scare. A woman avoids bending to her garden. Days once filled with activity shrink into long stretches of sitting. At first, nothing seems wrong. But within weeks, core muscles, the foundation of stability, begin to waste away. Soon standing feels harder, gait less steady, confidence more fragile. The tragedy is not that age made them weak, but that fear pushed them into inactivity, which created weakness. They did not stop because they were frail. They became frail because they stopped. The truth is that safety does matter, but safety is not the same as surrender. Installing handrails, wearing supportive shoes, keeping pathways clear, or using a cane can all protect without erasing movement. The key is to adapt rather than retreat. Each step, each stretch, each effort tells the body, stay ready, stay alive. Without those signals, the systems that keep us strong fall asleep. With them, the body remembers what it was built to do. Alongside this loss of movement is another hidden force that accelerates aging: disrupted sleep rhythms from irregular exposure to light. The body's circadian rhythm, the clock that regulates energy, mood, immunity, and repair, depends on natural light. Morning brightness tells the brain to wake, to energize, to focus. Evening darkness cues the release of melatonin, the hormone that invites deep, healing sleep. But in later years, these signals weaken. Older adults often spend less time outdoors. Curtains stay closed, days pass in dim rooms. At night, artificial light from televisions or phones replaces darkness. The body grows confused, unsure when to rest or to be alert. Sleep becomes shallow and fragmented. Mornings feel heavy, afternoons sluggish, memory less sharp. Immunity declines, mood becomes unstable, and risks of cognitive decline increase. None of this arrives suddenly. It creeps in quietly, mistaken as just aging, when in fact it is disorganization of the body's most basic rhythm. The remedy, however, is not complicated. 10 minutes of morning sunlight within the first hour of waking resets the body's clock. Sitting by a bright window, letting light touch the skin and eyes, revives energy and supports vitamin D production, which naturally diminishes with age. At night, dimming lights and stepping away from screens allows melatonin to flow, restoring the deep rest the body craves. Movement and light may sound small, but they are foundational. They are not luxuries, they are life signals. Movement tells the body it is still needed. Light tells the body when to rise and when to heal. When both are lost, when caution silences activity, and artificial glow disrupts night, aging speeds forward. But when both are preserved, the body can still remember how to be strong, how to rest deeply, and how to live fully beyond 80. By the time many people reach their 80s, they have carried more loss than most of us can imagine. A spouse who shared their life for decades, siblings who were once constants, close friends who knew every story, and sometimes even children who were never supposed to go first. From the outside, others may offer condolences or a few kind words, but soon the world expects the grieving to move on. The unspoken message is that sadness should soften with time, that old age itself somehow makes grief less sharp. But grief does not obey calendars, and the heart does not forget simply because years pass. What often happens is not healing but suppression, a quiet swallowing of emotions that never find their way out. This suppression often begins subtly. An older man tells himself he must stay strong for his children, so he avoids showing his sorrow. A woman hides her tears because she doesn't want to burden her friends. Another convinces himself that speaking about the past is pointless, that no one else would understand. Yet the body keeps score. Emotions that are unexpressed do not vanish. They linger in the nervous system, altering hormone levels, straining the immune system, disrupting digestion, and stealing the deep rest that the body needs to recover. From the outside, a person may appear calm, even stoic, but inside, the weight of unprocessed grief presses down on every cell. The consequences reveal themselves slowly. Shoulders slump under invisible burdens. Breathing becomes shallow. The spark that once lit their eyes grows dimmer. Appetite wanes, energy fades, and health begins to falter. Families may dismiss these changes as natural aging, but often they are the physical echoes of an emotional load never released. It is not just the loss of people that takes years away, but the choice or the lack of opportunity to grieve openly, to feel fully, to share the truth of sorrow. I once knew a man in his mid-80s who had lost his wife of more than 60 years. He rarely spoke of her. He never cried in public. He told everyone he was fine. Yet within months, he began to lose weight. His nights were restless, his mornings heavy. He withdrew from his community center, claiming he was simply tired. The reality was that his body was carrying what his words refused to express. His decline was not due to disease. It was due to grief left unspoken, grief turned inward until it wore him down from within. What separates those who continue to thrive well into their later years is not an absence of loss, but the presence of outlets. People who live longer, fuller lives often find safe ways to release what they carry. Some confide in a trusted friend who listens without judgment. Others turn to journaling, placing their pain onto paper so it no longer remains trapped inside. Many find solace in prayer, meditation, or faith communities, where sorrow can be spoken aloud and transformed into meaning. Some seek therapy or counseling, creating space where their emotions can finally breathe. The method matters less than the act itself. What is expressed can begin to heal. What is buried will only fester. If you are over 80 and feel the weight of losses you rarely speak about, understand that silence is not strength, it is surrender. To say, "I miss her," or "I feel alone," is not weakness. It is permission for your heart to breathe again. And when the heart breathes freely, the body often follows with renewed vitality. Emotional release is not simply about comfort, it is about survival. The human spirit cannot thrive under a lifetime of unspoken grief. So when we ask why some people fade after 80, while others remain resilient, one answer lies here: in the courage to feel, to express, to mourn. Longevity is not only measured in years, but in the freedom to live them fully, unburdened by emotions locked away. Allowing yourself to grieve openly may be one of the most powerful medicines of all. Perhaps the most invisible force behind decline after 80 is not illness or accident, but the slow fading of daily purpose. Purpose at this stage of life does not need to be grand or heroic. It does not have to be a career, a mission, or a lifelong project. It is the simple rhythm that gives shape to the day, the reason to rise each morning, the thread that ties one moment to the next. When these small anchors disappear, when days stretch without reason or structure, something inside begins to shut down. The body listens to the mind, and when the mind no longer expects anything of itself, the body obeys by withdrawing. Appetite lessens, movement slows, energy recedes. It is not that life has ended, but that it has stopped asking to be lived. This loss often happens quietly, almost unnoticed. Perhaps a weekly card game ends because friends can no longer gather. A church group disbands. Family visits become less frequent. A volunteer role is set aside because of aching joints. At first, these feel like small changes, but together they erode the scaffolding that holds the days upright. What remains is a long, unbroken stretch of time, empty of tasks and devoid of anticipation. In that emptiness, the flame of vitality flickers. I once met a woman in her late 80s who defied this pattern. She was not in perfect health, nor surrounded by constant company, yet she carried herself with energy and light. Her secret was simple. She never let go of her routines. On Mondays, she baked bread and gave half a loaf to a neighbor. On Wednesdays, she wrote postcards to those in her community who were ill or homebound. On Fridays, she placed a chair by the window to watch school children walk home, greeting them by name as they passed. These acts were not dramatic, but they gave her life texture. They reminded her that she still mattered, that her presence made a difference, however small. Science supports what her life demonstrated. Studies consistently show that having purpose, even small, everyday purpose, is one of the strongest predictors of longevity. People with defined daily roles enjoy stronger immune systems, better sleep, and lower rates of depression and cognitive decline. Their bodies continue to repair and protect because the mind signals that it is still needed. Purpose acts as fuel, convincing the cells to keep going, to keep investing in survival. Without it, the systems that once maintained resilience begin to go quiet, not because they are broken, but because they are no longer called upon. The danger of losing purpose is that it rarely announces itself. No alarm sounds. Instead, the days simply become flatter, one indistinguishable from the next. The person tells themselves this is normal aging, but deep down they feel the truth. Life is thinning out, and when purpose is absent long enough, decline accelerates. The difference between a body that thrives at 90 and one that fades at 80 is often nothing more than whether each day has a reason. The good news is that purpose can be rebuilt at any age. It does not require wealth, youth, or extraordinary talent. It can be as humble as tending a plant, caring for a pet, calling a friend at the same hour each week, or keeping a journal. What matters is not the size of the activity, but its consistency. The body thrives on rhythm. The heart thrives on relevance. When both are present, life retains continuity, and with continuity comes strength. As we reach the end of this reflection, one truth stands clear. Most people do not fade after 80 because of a single dramatic event. They fade because the habits, connections, and purposes that once gave their days shape slowly vanish. Yet just as these losses arrive quietly, they can also be restored quietly. One meaningful action, repeated faithfully, can breathe life back into the day. Longevity is not simply about the heart continuing to beat. It is about giving the heart a reason to keep beating. And that reason is found not in distant dreams, but in the simple, steady purpose that greets you each morning and whispers, "You still matter." In third,